everyone, I am Mishka and welcome back to my channel. So in today's episode of Our Beginnings and Always, we are going to be continuing with Derek's DLC moments. Oh my god. Listen, I haven't been here in like almost a month and I'm so sorry you guys. I was gonna record this past weekend and I got so busy. It was super loud in my house, and when I went back and redid the footage, you could hear everything. You could not even hear me. So I had to scrape that and I had to do this all over again. I didn't get that far into siblings though, so it's alright. So yeah. And then I got sick like 2-3 days ago when I was gonna record when I had time, and then I ended up getting sick because my mom wanted to pass a virus on me or something. I don't know, but I did not feel good at all. But now I'm back and I'm better. So yeah, I'm really sorry for the wait, you guys. I know you've been wanting to see this, so now I'm finally showing this to you guys, you know, when I upload this, of course, but you know. But yeah, we're going to be doing the DLC moment siblings today. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe and share this video with your friends so they can find out about my amazing channel just like you have right now. So yeah, let's get to it. I hope you enjoy. Go! Oh. We're going to ignore that. You stretched your arms high as you stepped into the spot on your wooden floor where the last rays of sunshine landed. The remaining warmth of the day was still enough to tickle your skin. You felt pleasantly full from dinner, and the only thing that was left on your plate was waiting for a knock. Derek closed your door as he came in behind you. You got to spend the afternoon together, and you knew his mom would arrive to pick him up any minute. Thanks for having me over, May. Of course. But I hope you're not bummed that my mom's made Elizabeth do the dishes after you offered to. Derek pressed his palms together, flipping each hand over and under in a loop. It could almost be viewed as a mock washing gesture, but he was probably being awkward. I just thought it'd be fair. I didn't help with the cooking. You're so sweet. Aw, thanks. Oh, Derek, Mr. Manners. But before you could settle in enough to even take a seat, a pounding set of thuds cracked the laid-back mood. Derek scrunched his limbs totally inward from the shock. You'd been keeping an ear out for the exact sound, but it was completely unnecessary. Tourists halfway across town wouldn't even miss that blare. The racket was followed by the door Derek had so carefully closed moments ago, abruptly swinging open. Oh, God. Hi, Elizabeth! Obviously, the person on the other side wasn't Mrs. Suarez. It was your older sister. With a huff and an eye roll, she delivered a brief message as fast as she could spill it out. Derek's mom was here and our mom made me come get you about it. Yeah, what a great messenger gal. She gave you the stink eye but didn't waste a single extra word on you. In one motion, she curled her fingers around the edge of the door, twisted around, and yanked the door shut. The books and boxes on your shelves shook. Derek's teeth clattered too. He whispered through the grimace. Man. I'm sorry for that. No worries, it's not your fault. She gets extra grouchy sometimes, right now for example. And actually, I'm sorry if I guys sound like I'm stuffy, I probably am, but yeah. Derek's shoulders slowly eased down into their resting position, but his expression was pinched. He began to whisper while glancing the way your sister went. His voice was hushed, secretive, almost afraid Elizabeth might slap the door open again and find out he was talking about her. Do you think it's about the dishes, or... I don't know. You could only give a half-hearted answer. You struggled to understand why Elizabeth acted out the way she did a lot of the time. But your mom is waiting. We've got to go so you can get home. Right, May? Derek's mouth opened and closed without saying anything else. He lifted a hand to try gesturing, but dropped that without it going anywhere. It made you raise your eyebrow. Yeah? His bright green eyes squinted hard into narrow slits, but you could still see the way they darted around. His gaze was trained on the ground, scanning across the floorboards through everything that really mattered was probably inside his actual head. I was wondering... Oh no. He paused again. Derek's hands balled into tight fists. He let out a breath and finally asked a question. Are you busy tomorrow? Oh! You blinked. That was all? No? The simple answer still made Derek flinch. It might not be all. Really? Really? Then he spread his fingers and arms out and on in a not quite a shrug. Would you want to come over to my house for the day? Oh! The tone of voice and pose he took was casual in a scripted way. He definitely wanted you to feel like it was totally optional, no problem if you turned him down. You couldn't tell if that was the end or just another point in a process, but you were going along for the ride. I can probably do that. I have to ask my mom's. Derek leaned in closer, slowly opening his eyes wider. Some kind of suspense was growing. Alright, alright. He dipped his head in tiny repetitive nods. The look on his face went distant again, the way it did when he was thinking deeply. Then finally he flung his hands up to complete the shrug and spoke the question he'd been stalling on. Oh, dear. Would you want to come over tonight instead and sleep over? We could, camp out in my living room. It'd be fun, our own little party. Oh my god. Now you were the one feeling nervous. Oh, it's so cute! I know that's pretty out of nowhere. If you can't make it or don't want it or anything, I'm totally cool with it. Let's do it! Awesome! Come on, we'll ask right now. Yeah, definitely. My mom is waiting for us. The two of you left your bedroom and bounded the stairs. Oh my god. One after the other. Your warm greeting came as you hit the landing point in the first floor. Hello, Derek and they. Your two moms and Derek's one mom were gathered in the entryway of the living room. Derek reached out a hand towards her and waved it. Hey, Mom. Hey, it's nice to see you, Mrs. 𝐍𝐸. After smiling at him and at you, Derek's mom turned her head over her shoulder to speak to your parents. Thank you again for taking care of him. Mom. Derek curiously broke polite decorum by interrupting his mom. It got her attention. She let him speak. I have something I wanted to ask you and Mrs. Taylor. Oh? What is it, sweetie? He had the intention and encouragement of all three mothers. On this stage, Derek didn't beat around the bush the way he did before. Well, that says something! I was wondering if May could come with us and spend the night at my house, please. He knew your moms well enough to foresee potential concerned reactions, and so Derek sped through his extra terms to make sure they heard that part before answering. We'd set up in the living room and set up my room. My parents and my brothers would still be around. People could keep an eye on us. As expected, Mom and Ma weren't instantly thrilled. They were shocked by the possibility. And while he was successful at avoiding the first obvious pitfall, your mom still had a completely different apprehension to fret about. That's pretty last minute. You're about to walk out the door. We couldn't have Megan pose. Derek's mom stayed strangely silent after he popped the question. She fixed a stare at her son, crossed her arms against her chest, and shook her head at him. But the shake didn't mean no. It had another meaning that maybe only a 𝐍𝐸 could get. Still, she smiled. We can find a place for May tonight, if there's no family conflict with that, and she would like to come over, of course. Both of your moms turned their faces right towards one another on instinct. They were astounded that Derek's mom didn't mind. Huh. What's wrong with this? Mom scratched her head over it. Derek had made a huge request with no advance warning, and Mrs. 𝐍𝐸 already had 3 children to care for. It seemed unreasonable to her. For your ma, however, a light began to sparkle in her eyes, and when she noticed you looking, she held your gaze. May, do you want to go? I do. Ma wrapped both her arms around one of her wives. I see. I think that would be alright just this time. Really? Your mom sputtered. She clearly hadn't gotten to that page of the script. Mom got an encouraging pat on the top of her hand for her troubles. She remained absolutely perplexed, mouth open, eyes wide. Mom could only process enough to realize that she'd become the odd mom out. She probably didn't know exactly why she was doing it, but Mom turned to look at you. Pack it up, May. You wouldn't want to keep them waiting. You snapped your gaze to Derek. He'd done the same. The two of you shared a matching look of astoundment. It was almost identical to the gestures your mom had made when Mrs. Suarez first accepted Derek's proposition. Thank you, Mrs. Taylor and Taylor. Yes! The deal was finalized with a crisp clap from Mrs. Suarez. Pamela is right. You should get what you'll need for the night. You're coming along for the ride. I'll help. Neither of you gave them time to change their minds. You ran back to your room and began to pack in a whirlwind. As you shoved clothes into a backpack, Derek hovered in the center of the room. He fidgeted with his energy that was going unused. Can you give me a spare toothbrush? There's extra for traveling in the hall closet. In the hall closest. Oh my god. Gotcha. He was gone in a flash. Oh. You made sure to get the basic and something you personally couldn't go without. Oh. A bag of makeup. Come on. Come on now. You made a note in your head to ask your mom to tell Cove where you'd be, since there wasn't time to explain it in person. But then you remembered a conversation you had with him that morning. He had plans the next day, wouldn't be around for a lot of it anyway. Derek's invite had come at a convenient time. Derek returned in a sprint, a toothbrush held over his head in triumph. With a grin, you threw it into the overnight bag. That was enough to get you by for a short trip. You zipped it up, hooked it around your shoulder, and went out the door. You checked off the final requirements to leave. For the second time in a matter of minutes, you rushed down your stairs in a flurry of steps with Derek close enough that you almost stumbled into him. At the bottom, you came to stand in front of the mom group. We're ready.
Good night.
Perfect. Good luck, kiddos. Have a great time. Gently and rhythmically, Ma ran her hand over your hair. All her precious hopes for your safety and happiness ebbed from her fingertips into you.
Take care.
Good night, mate. Take care. Oh my god. I will, and thanks. Mrs. Suarez and Derek gave their own goodbyes, and afterwards they returned to the minivan that had brought them here. Oh my god, oh my god, his mom drives a minivan? Girl. And then, almost unbelievably, you slid into the vehicle with them to go on the impromptu sleepover. The chill of the squeaky leather against your hands and the persistent smell of animal cracker crumbs kept you grounded in reality. Derek bounced against the seat back like a kid on a roller coaster and clicked his seatbelt into place for the ride to his condo you strapped into. You never could have imagined the evening taking you down this literal and metaphorical road, but you were eager to find out what happened next. The sun continued to sink as Derek's mom drove down the highway. When you arrived at your destination, so had night. The condo complex was nicely lit and well maintained. The three of you easily made your way up to Derek's house and went right in. Slipping her set of jangling keys onto a nearby wall hook, Mrs. Suarez called out into the hall from the empty living room. We're home. You braced your ears for the second sibling cause commotion of the evening that you knew would come. Derek's back! Oh my god, I love Nicholas when he does that. Nicholas tore out of his bedroom and thundered across the floor until he had his arms gripped around his big brother's legs. Even with all the force, 6-year-old Nicholas could muster, it was hardly a bump against Derek. He absorbed the impact calmly, giving his little sibling a pat on the head for his troubles. Yeah, we're back. The two remaining boys of the family came from the same room at a snail's pace in comparison to the first, but soon Mr. Suarez and George were with you too.
Welcome back.
Welcome home. George rubbed a growing sleepiness from one eye. He took in the scene with undistinguished confusion. Why is May here? What do you mean I live here, you tease? No you don't, Mom? She answered matter-of-factly. May's staying over with us tonight. George clamped his mouth shut. He might have had something to say about the spur of the moment plans, but was obedient enough to not argue with his mother. Mr. Schwartz, however, had a childlike glee in his expression. Oh, very good. Derek cut into his dad's excitement with a reply a little too soon. He had completely normal words to say, but he had put on fast forward. Yeah, it's great. Thanks, Dad. Anyway, we're gonna camp out in the living room. Can we borrow the tent? Derek's hands were balled in a fist and held up near his collarbone overzealously, kind of protectively. His father looked down at him with a familiar, serene expression. You knew exactly where he'd seen it before when Mr. Swears placed his hand on the top of Derek's head. Oh. He took a Derek the same way Derek cared for 𝐸𝐸. Of course. The gesture worked the exact same charm on Derek. His shoulders relaxed, his expression softened shyly. The pounding nerves that had been building faded. Camping? 𝐸𝐸 shouted without warning. The entire exchange had held no interest for the youngest one until that moment. That's right, Nico. Derek reached down and carefully placed his hands on 𝐸𝐸's shoulders to nudge him off. 𝐸𝐸 went willingly, giddily, repeating the same word, this time in amazed confirmation rather than as a question. Camping! With a thumbs up, Derek stood tall. The plan was in motion. May, you can put your bag down and sit if you want to. I'll go grab some other stuff. When moving past you, Derek took a second to lean in and whisper a lighthearted reassurance. Little bros will go to bed before we do, and Mom is going to be watching them tomorrow. You're not here to babysit the whole time again. Okay, cool. The whole group broke off into 3 sets. Derek ran to his room with 𝐸𝐸 right on his heels, while Mr. and Mrs. Swears left the space to the kids, returning to their own bedroom. You and George stay where you were. George shuffled over to the kitchen counter to sit on a bar stool. He wasn't helping, but he wasn't getting in the way. George was more sensitive than he let on. You made sure to smile reassuringly at him so he knew he was wanted there. His lips quirked up just a little in response. Then you took your own seat on the couch and got to unpacking. The first thing you pulled out of the bag was your bag of makeup. You placed it on the coffee table for safekeeping. You kept busy sorting through it all until Derek returned with the goods. 2 pillows were under each of his arms. He had a few brightly patterned blankets draped over his shoulders, and the rope long of a big nylon pack was hooked around one wrist. God. 𝐸𝐸 supported the effort by carrying one long pillow. He clutched it tight to his chest as best he could, considering the pillow was about as long as his whole torso. Oh my god. Derek piled up the supplies on the opposite side of the couch from where you were. 𝐸𝐸 opened his arms wide to let his pillow drop to the floor in a soft puff. It made Derek chuckle proudly. I'm gonna put together the tent. 𝐸𝐸, George, you wanna help? I'll help. I'm gonna put together the tent. Oh my god. 𝐸𝐸 bounced around Derek in absolute eagerness. In the distance, George pushed away from the counter. Yeah. His expression was flat and wide-eyed, but there was a hopeful rise in his voice as he got up from the bar stool. I'm helping too. Let's do it. The declaration made you, Derek, 𝐸𝐸, and George get to work making heads and tails of the tent. Derek yanked open the cinched-in top of the pack while he walked to the furthest spot in the living room. Everyone followed his lead. He pushed the semicircle basket chair up against the edge of the counter well so the tent could go there instead. Derek dumped the contents of the bag onto the cream rug. He leaned over on one foot while kicking the other in the air to reach over and grab the instructions that fell out with the rest of the materials. He scanned over the steps briefly, but it was only a refresher. Derek was able to get right into the process. 𝐸𝐸 was assigned pole control. He kept watch on the pile, not letting anything roll away, and would pass the 10 legs over when they were needed. Stretching the fabric out took the rest of you. You, George, and Derek each grabbed a side and tugged. Derek had to squeeze himself against a tall potted plant in the corner. He snickered at the way the leaves curled around his face. Despite that, you got the tent laid out across the ground. The first time 𝐸𝐸 got to pass a pole, it slapped against the wall in the tiny space you were working on. George covered his ears and ducked. Derek snatched the end out of the air before it could do more damage. The little boy promised to be more careful. He got to keep his job and took it seriously. Piece by piece, the project slowly took shape until it was finally complete. The small light gray tent sat in its full form, nestled in the nook of the living room.
Good job, see?
Alright, good job everyone. As if he'd yelled into a cave, an echo of his words followed after. Good job! 𝐸𝐸 threw his hands in the air with joy. George simply smiled, satisfied. Good job! Derek stuck his fist to his hips and gave the team an encouraging grin. Now, we can actually do the indoor camping part of this living room camp out. Derek strolled up to the cabinet in the corner. He pulled open the translucent doors to fiddle around with something inside. A poppy tune blared out. He turned on a CD player. Nicholas leapt onto the couch and swung his arms in the air to dance. George swayed his shoulders to bubblegum notes. Their big brother wasn't done yet. He made a beeline for the kitchen cupboard next. This time, the mood setter Derek returned was a pillow-sized bag of puffing marshmallows. Catch! That was the only warning before he sent the marshmallows sailing across the room in a perfect arc. George managed to snatch it from the air without problem. The top of the bag was twisted around and sealed with a blue clip. The open side was stretched from the process of twisting and untwisting repeatedly. It had been well appreciated so far. George undid the clip and set it aside on the coffee table. His tongue pressed against the corner of his lips as he dug his hand deep into the bag for just the right one. Nicholas tilted over from the couch and into the bag to fill his tiny fist with 2 marshmallows. He crushed them between his fingers, the fluffy confection squeezing through the cracks. It really was a party. Derek put his hand on the cupboard handle and shouted to you over the music. Do you like marshmallows? Ew. Oh. Is there another snack you'd want for our super cool pretend camping trip? We've got granola, some nuts, fruits that's dried or not, protein bars. He scratched a finger into the side of his hairline, searching his brain for more traditional fireside eats. Derek was committed to the theme. Fresh fruit is nice. I'll get it. He leaned back inside the cupboard to take another snack for you. Derek lifted it over his head for you to examine with his face still in the sleeves. Thank you. The cupboard door swung closed and nothing was there to obstruct your view of the bright grin on his face anymore. He finally joined the outside base camp, which was the couch at the moment. Derek politely passed the fresh fruit to you. George, give me one of those too. Without even one warning, George simply flicked a marshmallow at his brother, and same as before, Derek grabbed it in midair. He bit one piece out of the top edge, chewing thoughtfully. There's no TV while camping, so having a sleepover movie wouldn't make sense. With the swallow of a marshmallow and a snap to his fingers, Derek empathetically declared a grand idea. We'll play an ad-lib game. I'll make up a story and the 3 of you can fill in some blanks to make it complete. George rolled a shoulder passively. He had finished his first treat and was poking around for another perfect selection. Okay. Nicholas smiled a big white smile, but it wasn't just pearly teeth. His entire mouth was full of marshmallow mush. You took that reaction as a yes. The little ones were on board. I'm up for that. Alright, let me think. We need a noun. I think you can drive right on. A shape, a color, a food, and a drink. Nicholas gulped painfully, forcing down way too much marshmallow gulp all at once, but he wouldn't let anyone beat him to the punch. A truck! A truck! Nicholas' eyes were wide. He was practically vibrating from the sugar high mix with a chance to add a truck to the story. Derek rubbed his back placatingly. That's the ride, George. The middle child plucked at the frayed plastic edge of the marshmallow bag. It must have taken him longer to come up with something than the youngest, but he did contribute an idea. Blue. Cool, we've got a color, May. A food. Type in a food. Oh my god, we need pasta. Sorry. It's not Kipling! But come on. Gotcha. He shifted his focus back to the boys. Derek's expression and the entire way he carried himself was different when speaking to them. It reminded you of a teacher interacting with his students. George, Nicholas, give me some more words. Hexagon. Oh my god. Oh, good one. That's a shape. Apple juice. Perfect. There's a drink. Derek continued to warmly watch over his little siblings, but the words he spoke were for you. May, you're giving us the last one, a noun. Yeah, the noun should be... Okay, so what? Isn't it like a person or place? Girl, I don't know what the hell a noun is. See, I struggle with these things in school. Hold on, we need Siri. Siri, what is a noun?
Here's what I found.
Oh. So generally that function... Oh my... What? A noun is a word that generally functions as the name of a specific object or set of objects, such as living creatures, places, like actions, qualities, state of existence, or ideas. Living creatures. Bigfoot. I mean, that's camping related. His expression somehow softened even more. Awesome. Derek pulled his chest back and folded his arms. He smirked, brows angled, and eyes squinted. I can now tell you the story of Baby Castle. Oh my god. Nicholas stamped his feet repeatedly into the couch. He was absolutely squealing from the premise alone. Baby Castle? Yes, that's right. In a big open field, there was a stone fortress that was Baby Castle. Everyone who lived there was a little baby, but they didn't need any adults. Their greatest treasure was a giant golden Bigfoot in the center of the courtyard. They were always vigilant to protect it from the greedy hands of grown-ups. Oh my god, I'm so stupid. George snorted. His mouth and cheeks began to pull upwards. Then one day, someone came to the gates of the castle on their truck. It was a man, not a baby or even a kid. He had a hexagon-shaped head and a fancy top hat. He was knocking on the door, demanding to be let in. They were just babies and they needed supervision. It was a blue alert, and the guards were rushing to their stations. The first line of defense was their pasta catapults. Oh my god. It was loaded up and then fired. Bullseye! The pasta knocked the top hat off his head, but the hexagon-faced man wasn't deterred. He used his giant grown-up legs to climb over the wall. There was panic in the castle. He had to be after their golden Bigfoot. Derek shifted his weight from foot to foot with precision. His hands had gone up in front of him with his palms facing forward. He looked like the goalie of a soccer team. But the babies weren't beaten yet. The Scorching battle line lined up, and as soon as the adult stepped foot on the other side, he was pelted with apple juice. He stumbled back, and the gatekeepers opened up the door while he was blinded. He got pushed right out and back into his truck. The guards gave one more shove, and the man with his truck and without his hat slid down the hill and far away. The castle was saved. Their babies and their Bigfoot were still free. Hooray! The end. Oh my god. A matching pair of cheers filled the air. Nicholas and George were thrilled by the yard Derek had spun for them. You snickered into your hand just as amused as George and Nicholas. That was amazing. The living room campsite, blown out, kept rolling from there. Derek turned the music up louder, making sure to skip any track that didn't fit the mood. George and Nicholas spun across the floor to dance. They threw marshmallows in the air and tried catching them with their mouths, and when that got old, they tried to see who could fit the most in their mouth at one time. Derek grew up to the bean, tapped his toes around as he collected the treats they missed, picked up the pillows they knocked to the floor, and patted backs when their stuffed faces made them cough. But he wasn't only Mr. Responsible. Derek took his own shot at marshmallow mouthful competition and blew his brothers out of the water. Oh, you took a turn telling your own ad-lib story. It was a heart-wrenching tale of love, loss, revenge, and potted plants thanks to George's suggestion. There wasn't a dry eye in the house when, in the end, your hero wilted and every leaf fell. Aww. As the night continued, Derek moved on from the party hotspot to chill out inside the tent. He was on his side, propped up by his elbow. It took a few minutes for Nicholas to notice his brother's disappearance from his sightlines. You knew the moment it happened. He'd be bounding from cushion to cushion on the couch, but came to a firm stop, sticking his feet deep in place. A helpless pout flickered on Nicholas's face before it almost instantly curved into a sly grin. Nicholas knew where he could find his favorite person. He led from the arm of the chair to land at the entrance of the tent. From there, he sprung forward like a shot, straight into Derek, shoving him over onto his back with an oof. Derek didn't get up. He flopped his arms out and laid motionless. 3, 2, 1. Derek was down for the count. Nicholas was the winner. Claiming his victory, Nicholas curled up on Derek's flattened chest. He tuckered himself out. You laid down the blanket inside the tent. George wandered over to sit down cross-legged. He had one shoulder in the tent and the rest of him was out. Derek's eyes drooped closed and he heaved a satisfied sigh.
Sheesh.
I'm too old to keep up with you bros. You can party way harder than me. He could still muster enough energy to move a hand over his brother's fluffy marshmallow speckled hair. The little boy snuggled his cheek into Derek's jersey even more. Still cross-legged, George took hold of his ankles and rocked himself gently back and forth. The childlike position conflicted how contemplative his next words were.
I wonder what things will be like when we really are older.
I wonder what things will be like when we really are older. The brother with the most days behind him smiled softly while his eyes remained shut. That's easy. 10 years from now, I'm going to be a famous athlete. Nicholas will obviously be the cheer captain at my games. Oh my god. Derek earned a squealing giggle from Nicholas. He even kicked a leg out like a puppet who got a tummy scratch. George, you'll be my career manager. George stopped his movement, sitting a little taller. A smile pulled at the edges of his mouth.
Obviously.
May would be there too. That pricked your own interest. I'll be Derek's trophy wife. Oh my god. Oh my god. I love this. Derek coughed unintentionally as soon as he said your contribution to the master plan, but he rolled with it. Hold on, wait. Actually, I wanna see what he says here. You'd be achieving your dreams. Out this. Right, it's the best trophy I ever won, top of the shelf. Then his voice drifted off quietly. And the four of us would all be neighbors. Your heart skipped a beat. He wanted to live next to you. He wanted to be a part of his future. Derek, George, and Nicholas, you glanced at each other's faces and felt good you got to be here. You went to different schools, lived in different towns, had different families, but sometimes you were able to share your worlds with each other. And maybe someday Derek's story would come true and you'd be even closer. But that time wasn't now and all too soon. The Swear's parents reappeared to take their younger children off her bed in their own room. Despite nearly being asleep already, Nicholas gripped Derek's shirt when his dad reached in to pick him up. Derek kept one hand on Nicholas's head and pressed the other against the floor, slowly shifting into a sitting position. Nicholas's vice-like grip made it easy to do without either of them falling over. When he was upright, Derek collected his little brother in his arms fully and shuffled out of the tent. This is pretty cool, huh, Nico? Usually I'm all the way in my room, but tomorrow all you have to do is open the door, look down the hall, and I'll be there. Derek whispered soothingly on the path to the back bedroom, putting to bed not just the delicate bundle he carried, but also the likely resistance the boy would have put up. George trailed behind his older brothers. He didn't need the extra help, but Derek stood in place. He didn't move until the middle one could come up by his side. Altogether, Swear sounds went through the door. You waited in the living room quietly. Maybe a minute or two passed before Derek switched off with his parents. He came out empty-handed and they went in. He took wide, tiptoeing steps over to the campsite. His sleepiness from before was wiped away by a second wind of excitement. Derek made it back to the tent and put a hand to his mouth, watching the hall like a hawk for any sign of his family.
It's all good.
We've got to change into our pajamas, but we don't have to go to sleep for real. You got to your feet. His eagerness was rubbing off on you. The both of you quietly bustled between the bathroom and the living room, finishing all last-minute prep. Derek's parents lingered at the edge of the hallway until both you and Derek were completely set. Peaches on, teeth brushed, the works. Good night, Derek and May.
Night.
Sleep well. Enjoy the great outdoors of the living room. Night, Mom. Night, Dad. Good night. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Mr. Swears hit the light. The condo blinked in the darkness. There were footsteps, silence, and the click of a door opening and shutting. His parents had returned to their own bedroom. It's time to turn in for the rest of the night. With the opening and intermission over, part 2 of the Derek and May at Home adventure out could begin. Derek went from sitting up perfectly straight, ready for some non-existent interview, to dropping forward onto his stomach. He squirmed around using his elbows. The effort flirted the tent in blankets, making a soft crinkling sound. When he had positioned himself facing you, Derek rested his hand against the top of one fist. He grinned keenly. The rest of his family might have been right across the condo, but this was still the first chance to talk just between yourselves since the sleepover started. He'd been waiting for it. Oh, hey May. His cheeks lifted high enough to push up the bottom of his eyes as he whispered with a childlike sense of secret sharing. I was wondering, if we were being totally, completely serious, what would you want to be doing in the future? Do you have, I don't know, a goal or a dream? Oh! My dream was exactly what you were saying. I am serious about that. That made Derek's eyes go wider. He rose off his hand prop stand just a little, like he had been physically lifted by growing hope. Really? Really? Imagining you and all the Suarez boys living in the same neighborhood and working together on shared goals is truly perfect. Oh my god, they're so cute. Holy crap. You both relax more deeply into the soft bedding around you, likely both picturing the same image in your heads. Wow, that's a really nice dream. Actually, I kind of want to see, like, hold on. So. Yeah, I do. Oh, okay. I want to learn a lot. I hope I'll be famous. I like to help people. I want to make a lot of money. Hopefully I'll be able to create things. It'd be amazing to fall in love, yeah. Oh, we can do all these things? Oh, crap. I hope I'll be famous. You've got star power for sure. And I want to fall in love. Yeah, that sort of thing. Cool, thanks for telling me. No, I like the other one better. Okay. Wow, that's a really nice dream. Alright, sorry y'all. Derek contemplated, rolled over on his back. The arm that held his chin up was now tucked under his head for support there instead. His eyes never broke away from yours, despite flipping upside down. He could move as freely as he wanted and was taking full advantage of that. When his siblings were around, he had to work with 8 limbs and 2 heads, thanks to 𝐸𝐺 literal attachment to him. And that got your train of thought fully on the track of siblings. You opened your mouth and said, siblings are complicated. Derek made a violent attempt to nod along from his loop-sided position. Agreed. Would you want more or fewer siblings? No. He didn't even need a second to consider the answer, and it came easily and immediately. I don't want any more or fewer. Me and my bros are a perfect set. Plus, I'd probably die of a heart attack if there was a new baby in the house. That bit was tacked on with a wink. You were knocked back by your own bark of laughter. I'm glad you're still alive. Me too. The air in the near complete darkness had felt warm and comfortable, but the atmosphere began to change? What? It was too subtle to say exactly why, but enough for you to notice. May. Oh no. Derek reversed his position again, getting on his stomach. His arms were crossed over the floor in front of him, and he rested his cheek down against them. Derek's eyes were on the ground too. Would it be weird to ask if you're having fun? Are you having fun? Yeah, definitely. Wait, yeah, I'm having fun. Yeah, that's great. He clicked his heels together in a rhythm, soft taps and rustling of the blanket, 1, then 2, and then 3, 4 in quick succession, and repeated again. Derek fumbled onto his forearm. I was just really hoping this would be a nice time. The pensive look on his face, the tension in his tone, and your heart pounding harder. Everything felt very serious. It's nothing. The squeezing pain in your chest eased, though somehow it was more of a disappointment than a relief. But Derek spread on his palms, bringing his head up to your level and beaming directly at you. Have you watched anything cool recently? George and I have been showing Nicholas a lot of great stuff he couldn't see before because he was too little when they came out. He kicked the ball in a new direction, had too high of a defense for you to remember back to it, but that was alright. You could talk to Derek about anything. You and Derek continued to bounce from topic to topic. You quietly spoke your thoughts out into the air while hidden away from the rest of the world in your camp. It went on through the night until before you'd realize your eyes were opening to the morning sunlight. But there was no peace in Derek's household. It's morning! After giving his war cry, Nicholas barreled from his room and catapulted himself into the tent. Derek wrestled with Nicholas on the blankets in a tickle fight. It was a memorable way to begin the day. For breakfast, there was a cupboard full of different cereals and instant oatmeal packets to choose from, plus fruits, berries, and nuts to top it with if you wanted. Each bowl was prepared to the owner's specifications, oh my god, either by themselves or by Mrs. Suarez for those too little to reach everything. You got... Ooh, no. Strawberries and cream oatmeal. Oh my god, it sounds so good. And you added blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries. And that was everything. You glanced down the hallway expecting Derek's dad to come join the family soon, but Mrs. Suarez let you know how Mr. Suarez very sneakily went past you a couple hours ago when you were sleeping. Derek swallowed a spoonful of peach oatmeal with blueberries to know how his dad had to commute. Derek's mom nodded before moving the conversation forward. I'll take you home in the evening. The younger ones can stay with Mrs. Suarez then. You'll have a peaceful ride. Your moms know it'll be a little late. We worked it out yesterday while you were packing. And I'll be out running errands until then. I will be bringing the kids. You two can enjoy your time however you choose. Yes! Oh my god! Thank you. Because I was hoping that wouldn't be it. That's great! It ain't no fine. That's great. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm so happy. Derek stuck his spoon towards the ceiling and gave you a thumbs up from his bar stool. Yeah, that sounds good. Derek put his other fist on the counter, double thumbs up. Soon you learned another new thing about Derek's family. His dad commuted very early and all hands were tasked with cleaning up, whether they were guests or not. The five of you made quick work of breakfast. Then Mrs. Suarez, with some more assistance from Derek, corralled George and Nicholas into the minivan to act as helpers during her daily tasks. George could properly fulfill that role, while Nicholas was more of an honorary helper who still needed more support than he gave. The title was still exciting enough for him to release Derek for 1 minute so he could be strapped into his car seat for the drive. From one job to another, you and Derek were alone, put the living room back into its proper order. First, your belongings were collected and put aside to make sure nothing got mixed in with the other supplies. The blankets were stuffed back into Derek's room in the spare closet, and any loose marshmallows that were discovered to have escaped being devoured and ended up on the floor thrown in the trash. Your campsite became a hollow shell of what it once was. It had ended so quickly, but a short adventure in the great outdoors of the Suarez living room was better than none. It was still a minor miracle that you got to come. You didn't forget that. Lastly, the two of you worked as a team to break down the tent itself. You slipped out each of the poles, retracted them to their smaller size, and began to get them packed away into the sturdy bag that came from the night before. While folding up one of the legs, Derek lightheartedly chatted with you.
Oh man.
I'm so excited. The whole day. We can do anything before you've got to go. Walk to the park, watch a movie, get food somewhere. If you were being entirely honest with yourself, the way he was suggesting and the way he had said it almost made you think it was a date. But Derek certainly didn't claim it was. Oh my god. He hummed along with a bounce on his pose. He was having plenty of fun just doing regular chores with you. The good mood was infectious. It's great. I was just thinking about how I was surprised my mom let me come today. Out of nowhere, Derek twitched like he was hit by a bull. His hands flipped over protectively and the pole fumbled out of his grasp. It clattered against the wooden floor. The sharp sound made Derek winch. He gave a meek apology while the legs rolled back against his sneaker just as pitifully. Sorry. Derek bent his knees and gripped at his shirt's edge on the way down before he reached out to pick up what he dropped. What were you saying? That was pretty off. You didn't miss the blaring sign complete with wording sounds that something was up, but he obviously wasn't comfortable, so you tried to let it go. I was just talking about my moms. Usually they're really strict about sleepovers. I can't do it out of nowhere. It's a planned thing. Having it be a camp out in the living room must have helped a lot. You gave a bit of a shrug and scanned around for another piece to put away. We got lucky. Oh yeah, that makes sense. They are like that. Derek fiddled uselessly with the dark gray rubber foot at the end of the pole. He was pretending to keep busy. Why don't he remember what the two of you were supposed to be busy with? It wasn't going away whether you ignored it or not. Did you think they didn't like you or that I meant something else? No, forget it. It's dumb. It doesn't matter. He threw the words at you and it was final and way harsher than you expected from Derek. The sharp edge of it wasn't for you. The part that was directed towards himself. You'd never slept over at his house before. That had been your guess for why it might have been a little awkward. There was clearly more to it, you frowned. It's not dumb, I'm sure of it. His brows angled at the same time. A tight bend formed in the tent leg. The way he twisted it between his hands was too much for the thin piece of pole. He didn't say a word. You can always talk to me about things, you know, he spoke comfortingly. He sealed his eyes tight and dropped the leg on purpose this time. Are you serious? Despite all the effort it took him to ask you to come in the first place, that paled in comparison to this. Suddenly, it seemed like he wished you were anywhere but there right now. I can't tell you. Derek's voice was an impotent whisper. You'll think that I'm the most annoying guy in the world. I am the most annoying guy in the world. It was such a bad idea. It was sneaky and judgy. I shouldn't have bugged you, but I already did. It's too late. What? Derek's posture pulled closer and closer together as he spoke. His fist tapped against the front of his chest and his knees bent inward. The pressure building inside was exerting a real force on him. What if you don't want to be friends anymore? The last part almost disappeared before you'd had a chance to hear it. He looked small and lost. That's never gonna happen. The tension kept compounding, causing cracks where more words could slip through. I had a reason why I invited you when I did it. Why it need to be now, yes? Even though his eyes cracked open, Derek wasn't looking at you, but he sucked in a breath and took the plunge. Mate, today is Father's Day. Your jaw dropped. You knew what day it was, but couldn't have guessed that was Derek's motivation. You could put it together immediately, and though you were still stunned, you could put it into words. You thought I was going to be sad because it's Father's Day and I don't have a dad? Derek lowered his head and pressed his shoulders up to his ears, trying to hide from the sound of it. Well, I wasn't thinking for sure that you'd be sad. I didn't know how you were going to feel about any of it, and that's what was chewing at me. Derek poured out words, one after another, trying to explain himself and the conflicting feelings he had bottled up the entire time. The floodgates had been opened. It's not like I was around last year when this happened. I couldn't help wondering if it was a normal thing, or a good time, or a low point, or whatever. But I don't live in Sunset Bird. I can't walk on over like it's nothing to check. I had to come up with some other dumb way to be around. Derek's speaking pace slowed, but his blinks picked up speed. His rapid flow of words went from explanation to admonishment. It was enough for him to choke on. But that's stupid, because if you actually wanted me to be anywhere near you today, you could have asked yourself. And your moms are great, better than most dads, and you got Elizabeth too. I shouldn't have made up a whole big thing out of it because I made stuff up in my head. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. And then it went bone dry into silence. Derek dropped his arms to his sides in defeat. He could only look at you out of the corner of his eyes. Oh. He was such a sweet guy. You hugged him. It just happened instinctively. You wrapped your arms around his shoulders. Derek's caution turned to confusion. May? His breath tickled your neck. After an extra squeeze, you let him go. I'd never hate you for worrying about me. Really? You're not gonna tell me to call your mom to come get you and walk out the door and never talk to me again? That's what you thought was gonna happen? Maybe. I figured you'd at least say I'm a pain. Well, I'm not going to do that. Derek crumbled over, gripping his hands against his legs and releasing a massive sigh like he'd finished a marathon. Wow, okay, I'm sorry still. I should have asked you instead of creepily making you come over to my house so I could watch and see if I can maybe figure it out without having a normal conversation. Yeah, that's also a good option. The emotional exhaustion from carrying that stress on his back really had taken its toll. Derek crouched completely and plopped onto the floor. You eased down to sit next to him. He tucked his legs up against his chest and tapped the top of his knees shyly. He was the last kid waiting to be picked for a team on the playground. You were the captain who could include him. Would you want to talk now? I think that'd be good. Oh my god, also I got my permit! Yay! Yeah, I don't know why. I just thought I'd share that. A ghost of a smile appeared on Derek's face. It didn't compare to the ear-to-ear grin you were used to, but it was enough to make everything feel a little more normal, a little more right. I could tell by all the yes that Father's Day was probably today. I didn't care, though. We don't celebrate Father's Day. It's never been a thing in my family. I mean, I don't see why they would when she has two moms. Like, Derek and I quietly understanding. It's nice that you care, though. I know I have someone who really worries about me, and that's pretty special. Oh my god, he's so cute. Lord. Derek's face shifted to the side, but not enough for you to miss the redness tinting his cheeks. Thanks, May. Derek waited there on the floor silently, still curled up in a ball. If there was more you need to tell me, he wasn't going to miss it. I'm glad I've got my two moms. I love them. Definitely, I get that. They're really good. That was an understatement. Your moms were some of the best people in the world. Mentioning them took you right back to the fun times you'd had with your family. My moms are happy sharing Mother's Day with each other for the parent-based holiday. Though one time Mom joked about how they could switch off. One could have the actual Mother's Day to herself, and the other could make Father's Day be the other Mother's Day. Despite Derek's lingering awkwardness, Mom's joke still pulled some secrets from him. She would have been thrilled to know that. That's compromise. Mom was so funny. Totally. But that's why we've never done anything for today. Was it like having a dad? Is it different to how it's like with your mom? Oh. His parents were here, but his gaze automatically went to the hall that led to Mr. and Mrs. Ware's room. You had no idea what was on his mind, so you needed to wait for him to say it. Derek ultimately shrugged one shoulder and tilted his head back to you. It is kind of different. My mom is really a mom, and my dad's a dad. Oh yeah, no, it all makes sense. Sorry. He scratched at his ear. Derek heard the way his own words sounded just as well as you did. I think what I mean is, Mom is nice because she loves me and I love her, and it's great. We can just be together, and it's like I don't have to grow up so fast. It's okay the way it is. That's not exactly how it is with Dad, because I want to be like my dad, and I'm not. I want to get mature and responsible and do more. I don't feel like I'm good enough when I've got to compare myself to him. Derek blinked. He caught himself losing track of the topic. It was going where it wasn't supposed to be, and Derek put a stop to it. But it's not bad. It isn't like he's trying to make me feel that way. He pushed a couple inches off the ground using his heels and tipped backward a bit, then fell into place again. Derek looked like a tiny rocking horse. A slight grin cracked open between his lips as he swayed. And I bet a lot of kids don't have that kind of thing about their dad. They want to be like their mom or with moms. I think you're already good. Thanks, May. I want to be like me. I think that's perfect. Oh my god. Derek's words then slowed and stumbled. He squinted his eyes as if looking at you was blinding. It was the way he spoke when he forced himself to confess something he wasn't planning on admitting. What? Also, May, since we're talking about Mom and Dad, I want to tell you, they do kind of know why I wanted to invite, or why I wanted you to come over. I didn't tell them exactly, but yesterday they somehow figured out I was worrying, and before I could do something to stop it, they put it all together. I don't know how parents do that. They wanted to help me to help you if you needed it. But they didn't give any idea that I was just being nosy, and you didn't give me any real reason to worry. I understand. It's hard to pretend something is nothing when it's not, and it was really important to you. It was, for sure. Thanks. You didn't say anything else. Your thoughts drifted away from Derek and even from you. They floated across the condo, out the window, and off into the vast summer sky. As the silence settled between you, Derek plucked at his shoelaces and chewed on the inside of his cheek uncomfortably. When you felt the need to fix everything or make it all better, it was a major hitch when it was not your problem to solve. The air conditioner whirled in the background, though through your fuzzy feeling mind's eye, you could picture your mom's and your big sister. Then your brain and your body suddenly snapped together in full focus. Wait, what about Elizabeth? The mention of her name got the same instant reaction from Derek that you just experienced. His eyebrows lifted and his mouth opened soundlessly in a small O. She acts like she's over everything, but I think I remember, back when we were little kids, she would get mad on Father's Day. Maybe that's why she was so aggressive yesterday. She didn't have friends who were coming over or anything, and Mom's had work, and now I'm gone too. Derek looked hard at the front door. Was he expecting her to walk through it, or was he planning on running over to Sunset to check? You had no idea. Shoot, I thought there might have been a chance of that. It worried you. She was totally alone. Can I call her? Definitely, that's a good idea. Derek unfurled himself, got off the floor, and trotted into the hall with purpose. Mounted where the living room narrowed into a holly, set against the front wall was an off-white telephone. The phone to your house was wireless. Derek's had an elastic loop line that kept the receiver from going more than a couple feet away from its base. Visions of Nicholas launching a cordless phone into the air purely for his own entertainment made their way across your mind. The option the Suarezes went with was one of the most practical for their family. Your sibling, however, would throw a fit if she couldn't chat with her gal pals in private. Elizabeth, you wondered what she was thinking about right now. Call that hoe. But you wouldn't have to imagine for longer. Derek didn't waste any time taking the receiver off the hook and offering it to you. There have been many times in the past, Derek used that very device to call your house so the two of you could chat about your lives and make plans and whatever else. You literally ended up on the other side of things, supposed to give the Taylor line a ring from the Suarez house. You took it from Derek and punched in the number. When you pressed the cool speaker against the side of your face, you heard the high-pitched dial tone playing on repeat. It rang and rang, waiting for one specific person miles away to answer its call. Finally, she did. Hello? Your sister's unmistakable voice filtered through the phone. The impatient note in her voice was just as recognizable. She didn't even know who it was and already sounded uninterested. Hi, Elizabeth, it's May. Apparently her apathetic approach was being generous because when she did find out who it was, she cranked the attitude up to irate annoyance. May, what do you want? You were facing the wall, but in your peripheral view, you can make out Derek glancing with wide eyes. The conversation had actually stirred. That was all the insight he had on the situation. So how are you today, Elizabeth? I'm just great. What do you think? What on earth is wrong with you? Is it seriously that big of a problem for your own sister to call you? Yeah, that should be obvious. Listen, May, unless the police, firefighters, and ambulance or our moms are involved in whatever it is you're doing, tell me when you get back. You sputtered to get something out, anything that might reach you, but it was in vain. The line clicked out without a goodbye. Wow, bitch. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. You kept staring at the phone pointlessly. You couldn't even look at Derek. Your hand holding the receiver leglessly dropped to your side. May, what happened? She hung up. Despite the near single-digit amount of seconds your conversation lasted, Elizabeth's frustration tone had come out through loud and clear. Girl, don't feel terrible. She can go be annoyed. I mean, God. A pit began to form in the bottom of your stomach. Your sister wasn't happy and you felt terrible. The wish to have never called her and the wish to have never come to this place fought within you for supremacy. The hall felt cramped and you were suddenly comfortable being surrounded by these walls. Are you serious? Girl. Derek watched you helplessly, his fingers tensed, clenching and splaying again. A moment passed and he let out a heavy breath. He wasn't powerless anymore. I have a plan. You? You raised your eyebrow. The promise of a possibility gave you enough of a push to move your hand as well and place the receiver back onto the base. Derek sprinted through the living room and into his bedroom. The clatter of drawers opening and papers flying came through his open door. You slowly stepped to the edge of the hall to try to glimpse what was happening on the other side of the condo. He soon came bounding out again, clearly successful at something. Derek tossed a stack of colorful folded pamphlets across the surface of the top coffee table. Oh my God. He jogged over to meet him there. You couldn't tell what they were from a difference. Let's bring the party to Elizabeth. Oh my God, are y'all serious? These are bus schedules and stuff. I've only got to look at what the times are and we can leave. What? He chuckled mischievously. You know what I say, it's good to be prepared. And I did wonder about this kind of thing before. I can't drive, but what if there was an accident or other emergency or whatever? I need to be someplace right away. I already knew a lot of public transportation stuff because of that. Derek began to shuffle the papers around and he flashed you a bright grin. And I didn't think I'd be pulling this out so I could go see Elizabeth of all people. Derek laughed lightheartedly over the joke. The words didn't feel very breezy to you. That was because if he was honest, it wasn't about your sister. He'd spent time studying ways to get to Sunset Bird for his friends, for Cove, and for you. With you and him living away from each other and not going to the same school, sometimes it seemed like maybe you stopped being a piece of his life once he left your town. This proved you definitely disappear for Derek. He cared about you even when you weren't there, and you could count on him even more than you had known. While you were stuck inside your own head, Derek had his nose in the brochures. He pressed his palms on the table, fervently scanned the timetables, and rambled more about his scheme. There isn't a direct line to Sunset Bird. It's kind of a small place. We can take a bus to a rail station and get on a smaller shuttle for tourists. No, please, let's not do this. Derek's hands lifted from it and hit the smooth surface under him, making a solid smack noise. He was done searching. His gaze flicked up to your face. Is that okay? No, are we seriously gonna do this? I'm as serious as you are. His absolute conviction was enough to convince you, you nodded. We could leave a note for Mom about what happened, or... Derek picked up the pamphlet, sticking them in the crook of his arm. He twisted his head behind him, but whispered to you covertly over his shoulder. If it makes you feel better, we might be able to get back before she even knows. What do you want to do, Derek? They're your parents.
I guess.
Sure, but I'm the one who made this a problem. That's not the point. I want to know what you think. I'd tell them. They won't get mad at us for sure. Okay, we'll leave a note. Thanks, May. One sec. Derek dashed to the back room with all the bus schedules in his arms. He shoved them into something and ran out to rejoin you at the front of the condo with a bag swung over his shoulder. Next, he went into the kitchen to grab a notepad and pen from the counter. He hopped up on his tiptoes and leaned over and scribbled a few rows of explanation on the paper. He jabbed the button to recheck the pen nib with his thumb and set it down alongside the note.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Right. You scooped up your own backpack and the two of you locked the now empty apartment behind you. At a brisk pace, Derek led the way out of the condo complex and down the city sidewalks. You had to weave through crowds of people making their own way across town. Most of them were much older and taller than you were. Between the massive strangers and the immersed skyscrapers bearing down on you from all sides, you felt like a very small part of a far bigger world. You took Derek's hand. He wrapped his own fingers around yours and held tight. They gave you the reassurance you hoped it would. You were in this together. You pushed forward until you reached the nearest bus stop. A group had already gathered in the same spot for the same purpose. Derek didn't fight to reach the front of his pack. He just kept to the fringes. You waited for anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. It was pretty impossible to track time accurately when you felt every single sluggish second hit you like a brick. No matter how long it actually was, it was enough time to think. A part of you had felt as though you couldn't possibly seriously get on a bus and go back to Sunset without any of your parents. That just wouldn't happen. That was probably why you went along with Derek's impulse as quickly as the idea had struck him, but reality hit you like a bus when an actual bus turned a corner and came your way. You gave Derek's hand another squeeze. He responded by tugging you a little bit closer to him. The massive vehicle hit its brakes and slowed to a halt. The doors opened to let those who had arrived at their destination and accept new riders. The crowd jostled together and filtered through and from the door. You and Derek went in at the tail end of the group. You had enough change in your pocket to pay the fare. Derek flashed a bus pass for his entry. The city bus was as overflowing people as the streets were. You had to shuffle while you turned to the side to get through the aisle without knocking into the arms or legs of the other passengers. There was barely enough space to breathe. Humid summer days had never been more miserable. You couldn't even find seats that were side by side. Instead, you had to settle for 2 aisle seats that were across the way and 1 row diagonal from each other. That meant you had to let go of Derek, which was the worst of it all. The automatic door quickly swung open. You rocked as the wheels began to turn. You began to feel nauseous from everything. You pressed a hand against your stomach. It couldn't be over soon enough. But then you heard your name over the din. May, we can do it. The soft look on his face and the encouragement in his voice were directed slowly towards you, as all he could offer to him was enough. Thanks. Your lips perked up slightly at the edges of your mouth. Derek didn't attempt to carry on the conversation. Not that he really could in the hectic space with the distance between you. He'd become completely focused on watching for your stop. He had a destination he needed to get you to, and he was going to do it no matter what. More stops passed by until eventually Derek leaned his chest over the open space to send a quick message. His tone was breathy, like a whisper, but way too loud to really be whispering. This is it. He shifted upright immediately and tugged the bell, marking this as a stop for the driver. Soon the bus came to a cautious halt along the edge of the curb. Once at a full stop, the doors popped open and you repeated the awkward shimmy through the aisle so you could exit. When your feet landed on the cracked ground, you sighed in relief. It was over. You'd made it. This is really good. On Derek's first stop into the station, he pulled out one of the brochures out of his pocket and flipped it open. He must have kept that single pamphlet with the necessary details when packing the rest of the collection away. Derek was prepared as always. He held it up to his face, mapping out the station using the guide like a treasure hunter. You wandered around the wide open floor plan, searching up and down for the section where shuttles would load passengers. You were the first to stop the one vehicle headed towards a tiny tourist town. It made you stop in place. Derek. Yeah? At the sound of his name, he lifted his face up above the station map and saw what you saw. Oh. The shuttle was barely 1/4 the size of a bus. It was a glorified van. You only recognized it for what it was, thanks to the unusual pale orange paint job and also the word shuttle painted in blue across the doors. He tucked the bus schedule pamphlet into his back pocket and gave you a thumbs up. Derek bought tickets at a nearby customer service counter. There was no humoring the possibility of you buying your own ticket or paying for both. That wasn't a hill to die on today. Then you were ready for another ride. You poked your head inside the cab, and only a handful of other travelers were nestled between the 4 rows of seats. From the seat cushions to the smell, the shuttle was immensely more agreeable than the bus. You were even able to get spots side by side this time. Derek, though, wasn't any more of a mood to talk. The physical atmosphere might have improved, but the discomfort he felt on the inside was still eating at him. You could only sit in silence. For all the gnawing tension, you did make it. The shuttle eventually came to its stop in a Sunset Bird parking lot. The car was switched off, and the driver gave permission for guests to leave. Oh, no. while the other riders leisurely shuffled around, bags set by their feet and reaches to their hats. You and Derek hopped right off into freedom. Derek took a couple stumbling steps after his leap from the car, and then he stood in place. He watched for your next rope, counting on your guidance to finish the journey. It was time to switch roles. Sunset Bird was your turf, not his. You spun in a single circle, scanning the area for clues as to which of the multiple brick flat empty parking lots you'd landed in. When you spun back around, you got a glimpse behind the shuttle and spotted the corner of the grocery store. You couldn't have been closer to home. My neighborhood isn't that far from here this way. You stuck your arm out with a finger pointed directly towards the main street that you were positive was through the distant row of bushes. Awesome. Nice work, May. He made a break for it and launched across the blacktop. You ran with him. There was no time to lose. Derek was so fixated, he might have accidentally left you in the dust if you didn't push yourself. You flew out of the parking lot and dashed on the sidewalk you've seen a million times before. From there, it was a turn into the residential area. Ugh. Before you knew it, you had arrived at the top of your hill in your street. You were so close. The decline of the hill propelled your steps even faster. Derek almost crashed into you when you roped those towards the entry of your house. You caught yourself by bracing your hands against the front door. It took a second for you to separate your stinging palms from the wood so you could get your key out. But you got it in the lock, turned the key, and pulled. Finally, huffing and puffing, you stumbled inside. You were home. After everything, you almost didn't know what to expect when you laid your eyes on the scene. But it was your living room, exactly as it was every day of your life. Not a single thing was out of place. The low hum in the fridge was the only sound. Elizabeth clearly hadn't torn the house apart in an admission of rampage, although you didn't know what her own room looked like. May? You snapped your head to the sun. There she was, standing on the first steps of the stairs for Elizabeth. Her mouth remained open despite not saying anything else. An eyebrow was arched high on her forehead. Hi. Hi. Wait, is that what you were calling to tell me you were coming back early? Well, you explained everything directly. There was no point in being around the bush, not after how much you went through to do what you did. Me and Derek wanted to see if you were okay because you were alone here on Father's Day. She let out a single diversive bark of laughter. More was starting to spill out. It wasn't the worst reaction you could have gotten, all things considered. How did that even come up? The tip of Derek's foot scuffed at the wooden floor, and Ma kept sparkling clean. He meekly confessed his part in the debacle. I wanted May to spend the night at my place so I could make sure she wasn't sad or something. That's what I was hoping for anyway, but it wasn't a great plan. He couldn't help sneaking a shy glance at you. The mocking humor that colored her face was wiped away, and an absolutely deadpan way she said two words. That's adorable. That was enough to end the conversation. Derek had no comeback, and your sister simply stared blankly. Was this a mistake? Should we not have come? A seriously uncomfortable three-way staring contest commenced. You kept your focus locked on your sister. She did the same to you. Derek flip-flopped between Elizabeth and you. Then Elizabeth caved. She pinched the bridge of her nose and groaned dramatically. Fine, you kids win. Today was annoying. Not because I care that I only get to have two moms and I can't celebrate Daddy Day. It's because every year everyone else is busy and I'm stuck doing nothing. And so, no, I wasn't in a sunshine and rainbows kind of mood either. It didn't help that you ended up getting off that boat either. And then you called me. She wiped an accusatory finger at your chest. You'd gone out to have a party with your friend right out of nowhere and decided while doing that to give me a ring while I was stuck in a house like a loser. Rude. That's why I hung up. Her smirk returned much more earnest than before. I didn't know you were going to race across the city to come keep me company. The kind of affectionate teasing from your only older sister warmed your heart. It was special, all the discomfort was worth it. You could already tell today would be something to laugh about for years to come. Derek remained serious. He blinked in rapid succession and mustered up the will to continue with his regretful appeal. Elizabeth, I'm really sorry for not thinking about this more. Elizabeth cut that right off. She switched her hand in front of her face, trying to physically bat away Derek's sentiment. Don't be, please. Save your energy. She settled the tips of her fingers against the center of her forehead, her other hand resting on her head that she jutted out to the side. It's not your job to babysit me. You're not my big brother, and I'm not the one you like. Derek, oh my god, Derek. Elizabeth was as sassy as ever, and Derek's overly self-reflective maturity seemed childish when cast in that light. A dark red bluish grew across Derek's cheeks, but he smiled. It was a good reminder that he demanded a lot more from himself than others did. As for the first time, your sister praised Derek and you, huddled together, sweaty and frumpy from the journey. Oh dear, where are my manners? I've got guests and hadn't even offered them a drink. She shrugged one arm while swaying over to the kitchen, opening the fridge. Oh. Not very politely, Elizabeth shouted out while sticking her head into the chilled shelves. What do you want? Just water, please, thanks. I want tropical juice mix. A water and a tropical juice. She set a bottle of water and carton of tropical juice promptly on the counter along with 2 glasses. Elizabeth poured a glass of juice for herself and filled a glass of tropical juice for you two. One more time, Elizabeth, the demure hostess she was, shouted at you from the kitchen. Come and get it! She punctuated the statement by bumping the fridge door shut with her hip. Then she walked back to the living room, taking a sip of her juice. Derek took it upon himself to pick up both of your drinks. He went straight to the kitchen, grabbed the drinks, and then returned to offer you yours. You accepted it from him. Thanks. It made your sister snicker over the rim of her glass. Her gaze stayed on you while she lowered herself slowly to sit on the floor. You shared a quick look with Derek, but ultimately joined your sister on the ground. The 3 of you arranged yourself in a small circle shape, each with your little drink in hand. It almost felt like being a kid in kindergarten again. Elizabeth lifted her cup out over the center of the group. To this auspicious occasion, cheers to us. As sarcastic as her tone was, the fun she was having was genuine. Happy other Mother's Day. Cheers. He thrusted his own drink out in celebration before bringing it back towards his chest. He twisted the cap off of the water bottle and gulped down about half of it in one go. Derek idly wiped at his mouth when Elizabeth asked a flat question. How did you actually get here? Is Mrs. Suarez ailing out in her minivan out there? Derek's reply was perfectly cheerly. After the long way there, his spark was finally coming back. No, we took a bus. A bus? And a shuttle. None of the buses go right into Sunset Bird, but we made it. Obviously you can see that. Okay, another question. Are you going to be completely grounded for this? We have to move for my mom. She'll understand. This was an emergency, or could have been one. Huh. You're welcome. Elizabeth rested her eyes shut, took another sip of long juice. I won't tell our moms. Thanks. That's cool of you. We should go now. She stretched her legs and arms, spreading out wide. Being bored all day is going to be the least of our worries if moms come in and you've magically appeared in the living room. Yeah, it's time to leave, thanks. Her eyes narrowed, looking between you and Derek. Enjoy what's left of your little sleepover. Oh my god. She's just like, oh my god. Derek's mouth dropped open fruitlessly, then he closed it again. He didn't know what to say to that. Finally, he waved and chirped out a generic farewell. Bye, Elizabeth. Yeah. You held your hand out for a high five. Oh my god. Elizabeth rolled her eyes and staged annoyed. She couldn't take the smile off her face, and she ultimately returned the gesture, slapping the open palm of your hand. Bye. With your mission accomplished, the 2 of you returned to the wide open world. Returning to the parking lot was a far more leisurely trip than your arrival had been. There was time before it took off again. You drifted ahead like the lazy white clouds above you. The fluffiness of them made you think of marshmallows. The pale orange 12-seater came into sight, parked at the far edge of the lot. You and Derek got your tickets to the ride and hopped on. A few scattered tourists in their sun hats and floral patterned shirts were seated throughout the cabin. The small number of people in the space still felt cramped because of limited room in the car. You could smell their sunscreen in the air. In a slow curving motion, the shuttle pulled out. Derek sat rigidly, silently tapping his pointer fingers against the top of his knees for the entire trip. No words were exchanged between anyone except a few rules and updates mumbled out by the driver. People were tired from their long adventures out in the world. You can only imagine what the strangers sharing the shuttle had been through while barely audible acoustic guitar tracks play on the radio. Eventually, the shuttle arrived. Each person went their separate ways except for you and Derek, who stayed by one another's side as a pair. He navigated the station with maps he had kept tucked in his back pocket as a guide. And finally, you sat down in the deeply well-worn fabric of a city bus seat for the last ride. When the bus pulled out this time, Derek wiped his brow with his wristband. You made it back to Derek City. No mortifying calls would have to be made from an overpriced bus to stop payphone to beg one of your parents to come get you. Derek slipped over into his seat and stretched out his legs in the aisle. The bus wasn't even half full, so making a little extra room for himself wasn't getting in anyone's way this time. On the outside, the sun was still dipping under the horizon, giving the air relief from its sweltering heat. It all came together to make the middle tube of plastic public transportation left suffocating. Totally incomparable to the experience you had the height of the afternoon. Now it was safe to relax. Good job, us. Oh, yep. He chirped with a mixture of relief and fulfillment, like you'd had just had an 8-hour shift at a serious adult company. It was an honest day's work. It means a lot to me that you were here. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, Derek. Ah. Derek made a big show, swatting his hand nonchalantly, which pretty much pre-concluded it from being a casual gesture. The grin on his face couldn't even pretend to be unaffected. He was thrilled. No worries, May. Siblings look out for siblings. And he looked directly at you. Friends look out for friends. I know that I can count on you to help me with the bros when I need it. Thanks for holding my hand before. I'm just doing it to get the reaction out of him. Oh, you're welcome anytime. You rest your hand against Derek. Oh my god, they're so cute. I can't. I literally cannot. I love these two. Gently, you shifted over the side of your face and nuzzle against your seat neighbor. Derek's eyes sputtered closed with a sweet sigh. You were snuggled in for the final leg of the journey. All you had to do was wait. There was a soft vibration in the back of the bus. It slowly went up your spine and all the way down to the tips of your toes. During the ride, the sensation had frayed at your nerves. Now it was soothing. With every step that passed, your eyelids grew heavier. If yours wasn't just the fourth one down the line, you might have fallen asleep. You and Derek were the only ones who got off at that point. The two of you hopped from the front door of the bus onto the sidewalk. Derek leisurely retraced the familiar path you'd gone with him, matching step for step. It was peaceful, and with how close you had been to dozing off, it almost felt like walking through a dream. Finally, you arrived at the Suarez condo after a long, eventful afternoon away. You may not have lived there, but seeing that door made you feel welcome and safe. Derek clicked his key into the slot and pulled the handle forward. All traces of sleepiness that had lingered in your eyes were instantly wiped away. Derek unavoidably tripped the wire on a mini explosion. Oh no. Oh no. The condo wasn't as nearly as empty as it was when you left. The whole rest of the family had arrived before you. They were gathered together on the couch and bar stools, except for Nicholas, who had jumped to his feet to latch himself at his brother, his short arms circled around Derek's legs. It was an interaction that had happened dozens, maybe hundreds of times before. That was a hallmark of their own unique sibling relationship. Derek fulfilled his part of the tradition and stroked Nicholas's hair. At the same time, he offered the rest of his family a laid-back greeting. Hey. Good evening to you both. Hi. Welcome back. There was a knowing lilt to her tone, a crook in her smile. Did you have a good trip? Clutched securely between her fingers was a piece of paper. You didn't have to think too hard to guess what it was. The note you left explaining what happened. Yes, but a day. It was best you were able to spend time with your family. His parents were both perfectly contented. You had their full support for going on an adventure. Derek wasn't wrong. His parents weren't mad at you. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. It was good. Derek gratefully replied to his parents, all the while sneaking a warm gaze at you. Thanks for not grounding Derek. We've never had to ground Derek. He punches himself so much that we don't need to pile it on. Mom, please. Nicholas is simply held tight to Derek's jeans the entire time, happy that he was there and totally unaware of what the older people were talking about. George stood in between with his parents, with his arms pressed to his side. He had been listening with bemusement, then his thin eyebrows pinched and his lips pursed. Now what? Mrs. Suarez snickered cheekily, resting her actual cheek against Mrs. Suarez.
I hate to say it.
Well, I'm sorry to say, you better turn right around and go back the way you came. It's time to bring May home, but don't worry, I'll drive. Oh, yeah. With a wink and a grin, Derek scratched the back of his head. He chuckled right along with his mom. You had a great time staying with the Suarez family, but we're very much looking forward to seeing your moms and being reunited with your sibling over a humorously short time apart. There would be plenty more moments of fun and laughter to come when you were here. When you were. Thanks to Derek, it truly was an occasion worth commemorating. Oh, wow. Oh my god. Wow, okay. Oh my god, wow. I've been like recording for like an hour and a half maybe. Oh my god, bro. Yo, I love that one. I love the buzz. Oh my god, I love that. I cringed when I picked Thanks for Holding My Hand before. I know it's like sweet, but I literally cringe. It's because I want to see like Derek's reaction. I think he's just so cute. I love May and Derek together. Oh my god. How the hell do I have 20 plus notifications? Oh well. But yeah, everyone, that's all for today's video. Yeah, also, I'm sorry if I sounded like sick during this episode. I'm tired. I'm not feeling the best, honestly, but I wanted to get this done and I wanted to record. Actually, I think after I like literally stop recording this one, I'm gonna do Boardwalk because I'm in the mood to record. But yeah, everyone, that's all for today's episode. If you guys enjoyed it. But lastly, you're Gemma. Thank you for watching. Wonderful day, everyone. Bye!